Hundreds of people in the state of Kentucky lined up for the chance to speak to a human about unemployment. It all happened Wednesday outside of the Capitol Annex in Frankfort, Kentucky, with some people waiting as long as 8 hours just for a chance to speak to someone. So joining us now to discuss that is Boom Bust co-host and investigative journalist Ben Swann. So Ben, why just suddenly did so many people, all these people, show up outside of the Capitol?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Manila, because here's how it played out. This long line of people, as you said, happened on Wednesday because on Tuesday there were protests across Kentucky over the fact that people who need unemployment help have no place to get it, and they can't talk to anyone. They have to get on the phone, and they have automated phone calls. And so they demanded and protested, saying there has to be a way that we are allowed to speak to a human. So the state of Kentucky set up this annex, as you said, on Wednesday. People started lining up at 5:30 in the morning. Here's the crazy thing. They had a cutoff at 9 a.m. If you weren't in line by 9 a.m., you didn't get to be seen. People waited 8 hours in line. There were people who drove 4 to 5 hours just to get there to find out that you didn't make the 9 a.m. cutoff. And so the state is now talking about setting up another day like this, but they're not telling people when it will be or where it will be.
That's an interesting approach. Okay.
It's crazy.
That's okay. This is, I don't even know what to follow up with on that one. Like, not tell your constituents. Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but all right, we'll see what happens there, Ben. So what exactly is happening in Kentucky, and how many claims have they processed out there, given that so many people were in line?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So according to the state of Kentucky, they've been processing most claims. Here's what they're saying. They're saying that in March, the claims that were filed, they processed 94% of them. The claims that were filed in April, they processed 94% of them. And the claims that were filed in May, they say, again, they processed about 94% of them. But they say about 10,000 claims are still outstanding right now. Now, the fact is, are there 10,000 only that are outstanding? Perhaps. But the reality is that for many people, part of the problem is they're not getting answers as to how long this will go on, what they need to do in order to file. And the frustration is not just in Kentucky, to be fair. For a lot of people across the country is that they're filing unemployment claims. They're asking for help during this time. Remember, so many people are out of work. We're talking about 40 million people out of work because of coronavirus shutdowns, who are not able to talk to someone, that they're getting processed or they go into a pipeline and they don't hear anything for weeks at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's not just Kentucky. It's all over this country. I have friends in California who are makeup artists, and as you know, many of them are 1099 workers. They're contract workers. They file for claims, and they're getting completely turned down in the state of California when they pay taxes. They pay taxes for this. This is their money. They should be able to get some sort of help, but that's not happening, I guess, in the state of California. At least Kentucky is making some sort of an effort, I guess. But Ben, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, we've been talking about him all week. He just told Congress that it should extend those increased unemployment payments, well past July, I would think. What does that mean for the workers?
Yeah, well, it's a tough question, because here's the thing, is that, as you know, Congress, when they passed these unemployment benefits and extended them to everyone, they increased them by $600 per check, which means that for a lot of people who are out of work or who have lost their job as a result of these coronavirus lockdowns are actually making more on unemployment than they were in their job previously. Now, that's a good thing for workers in the short term, but it's a bad thing when it comes to saying to people, it's time to cut off that unemployment and for you to go back to work, because I actually have to take a pay cut if I'm a worker in order to go back to work. And so what Jerome Powell is saying is extend it past July 31st. That's when the cutoff right now is, July 31st. He's saying extend it well beyond that. So the question becomes, if Congress does that, number one, can you afford to do that? Number two, how many people get that additional money? But at the same time, to your point a minute ago, how many people are still being left out because they don't fall into the traditional system of what is designated as unemployment? And when you have 1099 workers and independent contractors who were completely left out, why are you giving extra to one group and nothing to another group? It's a mess.
Absolutely. They really have not thought through this process very well, because there are so many contract workers out there that are not traditionally employed, and they pay taxes. This is so unfair to so many people, Ben. And most of all, people are wondering, when are these lockdowns going to end? I think people actually want to get back to work.
Well, and that's one of the biggest problems here too, right? Is that a lot of people do want to get back to work. We're seeing lockdowns being lifted slowly, but even as they're lifted slowly, in a lot of cases, restaurants that are coming back are only at half capacity. Hotels are only allowed to be at half capacity. And then on top of that, you have all this talk about whether or not there's going to be a resurgence, and will that create even more lockdowns? Remember, nobody who's in the workforce created the lockdown, and nobody in the workforce demanded it. It was imposed upon them. And so it is up to government to do something to provide relief for those people.
All right, still a lot to hash out. Ben Swann, always appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Manila.